All right, good evening. It is November 14th, 2022. The time is 6:01 p.m. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Argyle ISD Board of Trustees. At this time, we'll determine if a quorum is present.
Leona McDade, present.
Josh Western, present.
Richie Deffinbaugh, present.
Matt Slayton, present.
Craig Hawksworth, present.
John Bitter, present.
And I, Sam Sladen, present. We do have a quorum established. The time is 6:02 p.m. We will adjourn to executive session. All right, good evening. The time is 7:01 PM. We have returned from executive session. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry, John. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
This time, we'll have a moment of silence. All right, thank you. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve action items discussed in closed session.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Wright, take it away.
Okay, we have several recognitions this evening. What do you have first? Keep going. Okay, we're going to start with tennis. Come on up.
Thank you.
Our Argyle Eagle tennis team, if you want to come up and stand up here. We're going to come around in a few minutes and the board's going to take a picture with you. But we're very proud of you, your first year in 5A, in Region 1 being a semifinalist. So your coach is going to tell us all about your season.
All right, thank you to Dr. Wright, the board, our admin, and the community for this special recognition. And this hard work is being recognized by our Argyle tennis team. We appreciate the grit, the growth, the dedication, and the heart of all our tennis players. The team had an overall record of 22-3 this fall and only dropped one match in 5A against a stacked Amarillo team who went on to win state. We were able to go undefeated in district and earn the title of district champs. In district, we had an overall match record of 125 wins and only 8 losses in a very competitive 5A district. We then went on and won 41 matches in a row and went undefeated in the first 3 rounds of playoffs to earn a spot at regionals. We won the 5A Region 1 UIL Sportsmanship Award as well. Our players earned 10 out of the 12, yes, 10 out of the 12 first team all-district awards for singles, and then we took half of the awards for doubles in our district. Meghna Arun Kumar and Jackson Hill were voted MVPs of the district, and our JV also had an undefeated season this fall as well. Coach Myhawk and I are proud of this team. We are so grateful for each and every one of you, your families. We have so much to be thankful for. We look forward to a good spring season, and go Eagles. Thank you.
Wait till we do it every time.
Let the kids be in front. Very proud of all of you. The board's going to come up here and, we're going to get in between you.
Yeah, slide in a little bit, where you board in between you or behind.
Either way.
Somebody else step up.
Yeah,
Let the board come through. Yeah, come up.
This way, yeah, let's get behind you.
Don't-
All right. This is good. Good.
Okay, everybody scoot towards the center, please. Perfect. Thank you.
More pictures. Okay, next. Volleyball. We're very proud of our volleyball team and your accomplishment this year. Our volleyball team is quarterfinalist in Class 5A Region 1. Very, very hard fought. 3-2 lost to Colorado Heritage, ranked number 1 in state. But you were spectacular. You had a great season. We are so proud of you. Coach Johnson, you want to talk about the season a little bit?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to be able to recognize this group of kids. Our varsity team moved into 5A and experienced a very difficult schedule this year. We finished the season with an overall record of 32-16 and tied for second place in district with a 9-5 record. Some highlights of our season include winning the Sawyer Camillo Memorial Tournament, competing well against state-ranked teams in 5A and 6A at our other tournaments that we played in. A surprise to many, we were a strong contender in the toughest 5A district in the state of Texas. We went on in playoffs to beat the then number 1 ranked team in the state, Midlothian, the number 11 team in the state, Aledo, and in the third round of playoffs, we took Colleyville Heritage to 5 sets. Our motto this year was to don't wait and to handle a hard situation better, and our team did just that. We faced quite a bit of adversity personally and together as a team, and I think something that stood out to me was after our last district game, we had been preparing to go play a tiebreaker tournament with a couple of other teams. An unfortunate situation happened, and we drew the 4th seed, and it was very heartbreaking to be able to tell these kids, and we took a day and we said, you know what, we're going to be sad today, and then the next day we came in and we said, and today we're going to beat Midlothian. And so we practiced really well for a few days in a row. I don't know that we were ever picked to beat Midlothian, but we did just that in that game and then put together a great playoff run. So I'm super proud of this group of kids. They choose to fight every day, but more importantly to me, they choose each other, and they love each other and they care for each other. And I love volleyball and I want to win volleyball games, but more importantly, I want these kids to walk away and to be good young women and move into the world and be great adults. And so I'm confident that they're going to be able to do that. And thank you. Thank you. It was a great season.
Very proud of this team.
Great, thank you.
I need a special picture. Thank you. Okay, next up is Tyler Western, Class 5A State Qualifier in cross country. And we have Coach Carter, who's going to talk about you this evening and the rest of your team.
All right, well, thank y'all all for being here and for all of the support that everybody gives us. It's a wonderful community to be here. Tyler is a great embodiment to the things that we believe in the cross-country program. First one's extra effort. He gives that on a daily basis. And the second thing we believe in, and that's all we'll go for tonight, is the state meet. And so he believes in the state meet. He believes in all his efforts leading up to there. And what's really cool is when you have one of the top 2 people on your entire program believing in that and showing everybody else what can be done, it helps lead an entire program and not just have one specific individual out there. So Tyler does that on a daily basis, helps showing everybody what can be done, what needs to be done, and what will be done. And so his season went on really well, as did the team. We had an unfortunate experience there towards the end of the season in terms of a team effort. But with him, he kept on moving forward. He only had 3 races where he didn't finish in the top 10 individually, And in those races, either we were combined with 5A and 6A teams and teams from all out of state, or the state cross-country meet, which proved to be more difficult in 5A this year than 6A. So he showed people that it can be done even if we move up to 5A. So he is there on a daily basis, giving as much hard work as he can, and he shows it, and he shows people what can be done. So it's a wonderful thing to have for him to represent us at the state meet this year and have the performance he did.
Yeah. You want to enhance the picture?
Tyler really wants right now. He's so good.
The band competed in the Waco Regional and the San Antonio Super Regional competitions this year. First time that the Argyle band had been in Bands of America. And I got to see the Waco prelims and the Waco finals and all many of the other bands. And our band was phenomenal. Our band won in their class in San Antonio and in Waco. There are many bigger bands there, and we got 8th in Waco, and then got to be the exhibition band in San Antonio. So for our first year in Bands of America, you all had a phenomenal performance, and I congratulate you. And Mr. Bird's going to talk about Bands of America and the program a little bit.
First of all, in front of you, Maya Madrano, one of our drum majors, wave. Abby Halverson, and Morgan Limish, our band president. So I'll start with UIL because this was the 22nd year of the marching band at Argyle, and it's the 22nd sweepstakes that we've had in marching band. So we've had straight ones for 22 years straight. For the first time, we went to the 5A area marching contest. I don't even know if this thing's on. It's not.
Keep it on your mouth, yes.
Okay. All right. Check 1, 2. All right. So still looks like it's on. I was doing this. So we went to the 5A area marching contest, and we didn't really know how we were going to do. We went with the intent of making finals and hopefully competing with the top of our area. And they typically take 4 from our area to state marching contest. We know it's not a state marching contest year, but it'd be a good measurement for us for the coming years. So we went to the contest. In prelims, we finished 8th, and in finals, we finished 4th. And so the kids were ecstatic, and so was the staff. We were so proud of them. And then BOA Waco, there were 30 groups, all 5A, pretty much, and we finished 8th there. But we are in class, we are Division 2. I know it's confusing. Really, if you think about BOA, they have a different classification system. It's kind of like a small 5A, large 4A, and that's your Division 2 or Class 2. So we won our class there, and then we went to San Antonio against 83 of the top bands in the state. 83 bands. That's a lot of bands. And we finished first in our class, and we were super excited. We did not make finals, but we were able to perform exhibition that night. So super proud of the entire band program, and especially the 3 people in front of you leading our program. So thank you.
We're very, very proud of you. Spectacular. We should put Mr. Bird and Mr. Lewis in the picture. Yeah.
Take 2.
Oh, no.
Ready, 1,
Who's doing public hearings?
We don't have anybody speaking?
No.
Sarah just signed in.
Okay.
She wanted to speak.
So, hold on one second, Liz. So, Mrs. DeVue, did you sign in to speak? Okay. All right, I just want to make sure that no one signed in to speak, just because we're moving past that. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so we have our school first public hearing. So this is a requirement to have every year after you have so many days of receiving the ratings. Is that better? Okay,
When
thank
we
you.
get a new building, that's going to be the first thing fixed.
Yeah. So again, it's a requirement to have the public hearing every year and to go over our ratings. So just a little history on what is FIRST. It's a financial integrity rating system of Texas. It was developed in '99. And just to remember, when you're looking at this information, the 21-22 ratings are based on the 2021 financial data. So we're in 22-23. The ratings actually for last year, the data comes from the year before, so it's always a little bit behind because it takes the state a while to get in all of our data, all of the different things we have to submit, and then for them to go through the rating process. The goal of School First is to achieve quality performance in the management of school districts' financial resources, in which we all know the complex system of school finance, so it makes it a little more difficult. Possible ratings are anywhere from 90 and up is a superior achievement. 80 to 89 is your above standard. 70 to 79 is meet standard, or the substandard is anything below 70, or if you fail any critical indicators. There are some critical indicators that mean an automatic fail on the first rating. So there's 20 indicators total. 5 are critical for pass-fail. There's another 4 indicators that are pass-fail, but they aren't considered critical. And then the 11 indicators on a point scale. And I'll go through these quickly, so please stop me if you have questions on them. So indicator 1 is a critical indicator. Of course, we passed that. It's basically wanting to know that our annual audit was turned in on time. We have deadlines of when those have to be completed, submitted to the board, and then submitted to TEA. Indicator 2 is another critical one. Basically asking if there was an unmodified opinion in the audit on the financial statements as a whole, and we passed. Again, these are just pass-fail. Was the school district in compliance with the payment terms of all debt agreements at the fiscal year? And so did we pay our debt on time? Of course, we passed that one. Did we make timely payments to all of the different governmental agencies? And they're listed here, TRS, TWC, IRS, and so forth. And we passed that one. And I'll go ahead and say anything that's pass-fail, we pass. So just know that when you're looking at the slide. The last critical indicator was not scored. And this was due to the impact of accounting changes implemented by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, but it has relation to the net position balance, unrestricted net position balance for the districts. But if it wasn't scored, and there are a few in here that were not scored or every district received the same, those were statewide, not just for our district, and this was a statewide not scored indicator. Indicator 6, we've moved out of the critical indicators. This one is, was the average change in the fund balance over 3 years less than 25% decrease, or did we have 75 days of operational fund balance of operational expenditures? Pass, fail, and of course if you fail, the highest you can get is a B. We passed this one. Indicator 7, this talks about the number of days of cash on hand. 0 to 10 possible score, we had a 10. Was the measure of current assets to current liabilities ratio for the school district sufficient to cover short-term debt? Again, 0 to 10, and we had a 10. And this one talks about our general fund revenues equal or exceed expenditures. And if not, then was the school district's number of days of cash on hand greater than or equal to 60 days? Again, 0 to 10, and we had a 10 on this indicator. 10 talks about, did the district have district average less than a 10% variance when comparing budgeted revenues to actual revenues for the last three fiscal years? This one wasn't actually, everybody received a score, but it wasn't truly scored for the year, and that was because of the impact of COVID. If you remember, we had hold harmless for the past several years in our revenue, but you may not find out until partway through the school year whether you had harmless and how much it was going to be. And so the state is saying they weren't going to actually score this. Everyone received a 10 on this because of the impact there that those hold harmless and COVID had on everybody's income or revenues. So indicated 11 was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets for the school district sufficient to support long-term solvency. Again, 0 to 10, we had a 10. Was the debt per $100 of assessed property value ratio sufficient to support future debt payments? Scoring of 0 to 10, we scored a 6. This is the only indicator that we score less than the top value on. Of course, it's something that we're looking at and we'll continue to look at. It is the same one, I believe, last year that we scored a 6 on. Was the school district's administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio? Just measuring how much we spend on administration compared to what the state says is appropriate. Again, scored a 10. Did the school district not have a 15, and this is worded a little differently, I'm sorry, but did the district not have a 15% decline in the students to staff ratio over 3 years? So it's basically your enrollment to total staff. They're wanting to make sure you're still within a certain threshold. We scored a 10 on that one. So our district's ADA within the allotted range of the district's biennial pupil projections submitted to TEA. Again, this has, everyone received a 5 on this one across the state, and it was on the impact of COVID-19 on school district attendance. But what it's talking about is every 2 years we have to look at what TEA believes that our ADA is going to be, and we have to forecast that out and say, no, we feel like it's going to be this, and you have to be within a certain range of that forecast for the next 2 years. And again, everybody got a 5 on this because, as we all know, COVID-19 wreaked havoc on everybody's attendance throughout the state, so the state's not technically scoring that one this year. 16, did the comparison of public education, which is PEIMS, data to like information in the school district's audit result in a total variance of less than 3% of all functions or expenditures by function? Again, a pass-fail, the highest you can get is a B. We passed. It's basically wanting to make sure that what we send in our state reporting is equal to what is in our audit report, and they look at it on a functional expenditure basis. Did the external independent audit report that the audit was free of any instances of material weakness and internal controls over financial reporting and compliance on all of our different funds? Again, a pass-fail. If you fail, 79 is the highest you can have. We passed that indicator. And then 18 is, did the external independent auditor indicate the audit was free of any instances of material noncompliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? And again, a 10 on that one. And did the school district post the required financial information on its website in accordance with all the different codes that we have to follow and rules that were in effect for that school district year? You could have up to a 5 on that, and we received a 5. And then the last indicator is, did the school board members discuss the property values at a board meeting within 120 days before the district adopts its budget? So if y'all remember, when we talk about our budget and we talk about the property values and we talk about the change from prior year to current year and everything else, and I keep reminding y'all that's a required discussion that we talk about, this is where we get rated on that. And again, we pass that, and any district that failed, the highest they can receive is an 89 or a B. So of course we received a superior achievement, 96 out of 100. We had a 96 score last year. There are some required disclosures that we have to put in here, and it's basically anything that's paid on behalf of the superintendent or a board member for any type of training, meals, reimbursement. Again, this goes back to 2 years ago. Any compensation received for the superintendent for personal consulting or other services, and then any gifts received by any of the board members or any business transactions between school district and board members, and we don't have any of those that we have reported. And then we are also required to provide the superintendent's contract, so we have copies of that that's available here if anybody wants a copy, and they can request it. And that is the final disclosure on the first report. So, sorry, I kind of ran through that a little fast, but it's basically we passed everything and scored the highest we could except for one indicator, and we're at a 6 out of 10 right now, which I believe is the same as last year. So do y'all have questions?
Why is that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Why is it, why are we scoring, I mean, that was the one that said, I believe is our ratio, it's indicator 12.
It is 12. It has to do with our debt.
Our debt, it's, yeah, this is a debt score.
It is a debt score.
And this is looking 2 years, 21, 22, so this is including our new assessed values?
It includes the
In the
assessed
current
values for the value at that year. So our values have grown quite a bit since then. However, our debt has grown since then, and so has our students. So it's a different calculation every single year. But as long as we are in the fast growth pace that we are, we will more than likely not score a 10 on this indicator. So, any other questions?
I just wanted to reiterate, this is for financial integrity, correct?
That's correct.
There are those in our community that would like to say that we're not being financially responsible. I think you've proven time and time again, and now you've done it again, that we're more than financially responsible. And I agree with Josh's point that, you know, it is a debt issue, but until we can stop building brand new schools because of all the growth, that score is always going to be there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you you built a dynasty in the financial world.
Well, I can't take credit for all of it, so
Well,
I have to
thank you
point
for
out
all
this
your
is
work.
either the 19th or 20th year in a row, and I have not been here for all of those years. Dr. Wright has. She started this, and I know many of you have been here for several years of this as well, so it takes everybody to do that. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay. Can you pull up the donations, please? Okay. For our November 2022 donations, we have from AEBC, $3,500 for moving state champion monuments from Argyle Middle School to Argyle High School. We have the AEBC donation of $5,120 for boys and girls basketball Midnight Madness fundraiser, funds to be split evenly. Another donation from AEBC for $1,000 for the girls basketball team building activities. AEBC donation for $5,525.25 for Argyle High School soccer jackets and backpacks. An AEBC donation for $4,088 for golf training equipment, $500 for sideline equipment shipping, for travel, and $27,450. That's $150 per athlete for a grand total $32,038. We have another AEBC donation for $5,963.49 for wireless mics for broadcast system, $1,344 for wideband UHF plug on transmitter. Total for that donation $7,307.49. Donation from the Arrington Group, $250 for Hilltop Elementary for fun run shirts, and the Argyle Lions Club, $500 for Argyle West Elementary for Red Ribbon Week. Total November donations, $55,240.74. Does anyone have any questions on anything pertaining to the consent items?
I had one question for Liz on the capital projects. I don't know if you pull that up, Rick. It's basically showing on our phase 2 for the high school that we were 2.75 million over, yet the estimate or the budget and the estimate are almost the same. And so I'm just not sure where that number came from.
So, I'm sorry, I think I have it pulled up on mine.
It's the
You're
capital
looking at
project.
the $65,850,000 and versus the $68,535,000. Is that what you're?
Well, that's all. I was reading that. I must not have my glasses on. 68,850. Never mind. That math is correct. That proves that you're first.
Anyone else have anything for the consent items? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Matt Slayton, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Deffenbaugh, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, we have any construction with Jeff, or, there we go. All right. Sorry, I was scanning, I couldn't see you.
That's okay. Good evening. I'll just give you a few quick updates on some things that have happened since we met last month. We've begun the parking lot expansion next door. If you may have noticed the temp fence. I know it was getting a little dark as you came in, but they've got that up. Silk fence, they've got 3 initial inspections they're working on with the town. Once those are passed, then they can actually get to the work of building these new parking lots for us. So expect to see something this week start on that, besides fencing. South Elementary.
What is the completion on those parking lots?
When's the
What is the
completion?
completion date on those parking lots?
We're looking at completion around May for everything. But as they complete sections, we're gonna turn those over. There's some light poles. It's the longest lead item we've got. So the schedule, the duration of it's driven by that, but the parking lot itself will be done earlier. And we'll just put the lights up when they come in. So we should have all parking lots done by May.
And the lights by May.
The lights will not be here by May. They're gonna be delayed a little bit. Just a long lead time to get those new poles. Over at South, I know we've been in there all year, and they've been working on punch lists. There's been a few materials that they've been waiting on that they need to finish, so those are all coming in right now. So we should have a big push next week while we're out, and they should be very close to 100% with all punch lists and all remaining work that had not yet been completed. We are expecting bids on Thursday of this week for our maintenance transportation renovation project. So those bids are due on Thursday at 2 o'clock, so that'll be a big day for us to get those numbers in and see where we're at. Last week, we did receive bids on Tuesday for the intermediate and old admin hall renovation. So later in this meeting, I've got a recommendation for you on that for a contractor. Let's see, we are bidding right now our early release package, first early release package for elementary number 4, which that includes some of the electrical equipment, HVAC units, things like that that we needed to get ordered as soon as we could. Those bids are due 12/1. And later on, I have an item on the action agenda for Verkada upgrades. So all the campuses that we have not yet replaced cameras and door access controls. So we've got some documents we're getting ready to release once that's approved. And I would think we get that online January, February to start changing that equipment out, getting everything onto the new Verkada system.
Jeff, on the future elementaries, are we looking at I know the plan is to keep our current designs and just piecemeal because we feel that there's cost savings there and efficiencies, right? That's
Absolutely.
Are we doing anything up front now for the next elementary on looking at those designs and based on our understanding of the last 2 buildings, if there's ways to create even more efficiencies with the design, from the design or different materials to reduce costs? Because let's face it, the budget
It's
we
all
have for
going
that
up.
might be hard to attain. with the
Absolutely,
higher
we're
cost.
always doing that. I mean, even through the course of the project, we're always looking for ways that we can do things better, substitute a material to get it for less money. But of course, as we work through it and we experience the problems and the conflicts that arise, we go back, we update the documents with all of those issues so that we start with a current set, trying to avoid the same mistakes twice. And so we're always doing that throughout the projects. not
Is the
just at the
architect's part of that
completion.
team?
Architect
They're
is
focused on
definitely a
that as
big part
well?
of that team.
Okay.
Big part.
So, Jeff, in regards to construction at AIS, can you speak to me about the timeline of going out to get bids? It just seems from my perspective, we've known we're going to do construction at AIS and had the entire summer in my mind but we're just now getting bids, and how that's going to impact our potential utilization of AIS.
Sure. So we've been working on scoping that project for quite a few months, even started last year, trying to develop that scope, which it was constantly evolving and changing as we worked through it. And then as we started seeing these increases in cost, we took a pause, went out and got a professional estimator to take a look at it, to help us try to get this project designed closer to budget. And actually even before that, I had reached out to a contractor who was able to go through what we had on paper and help us with some budgets at that point. So we've been going through it a couple of different rounds, trying to make sure we're designing something to keep it as close as we can to the budget that we had, which ultimately we did not do. But had we not done that at all, we'd have been looking at, potentially $10 million cost on it. So that delayed getting the design out to its full completion to get that bids back on that. As far as next year, the intermediate building itself proper has got very little work in there, mostly cosmetic. So there's not going to be any issues completing the work in that building for use. The hallway is still potentially an issue that we may have to work around some long lead items. Won't know that yet until I get a little further in depth if we approve the contract tonight. So I'm confident that we can find a way that we're going to be using the entire facility, but until I get a little more time spent with the contractor, we may have to come up with some workarounds.
So you're saying the entire facility, including the classrooms and the admin?
Including the hallway.
Right, because I think in 2017, when this is part of the bond, that was the understanding is that we can get, 300 more?
Yes.
A space for 300 more kids in that admin building. And so
yes, there again,
you still think it might be an option to have that capacity available by fall?
Yes, it may be, and that's what we're going to be looking for. If we've got electrical equipment that's going to be extended lead times, we're going to work to mitigate that with either temporary equipment or some other kind of workarounds.
And the place that was the former superintendent's office and all that, what is that going to turn into?
For now, that will remain the DAEP. I don't know of any changes to turn that into anything else in the near term.
Okay.
So that's not part of the extra capacity that we could realize? The admin wing? Okay, that's never been part of those numbers?
No,
Okay.
it hasn't. They did. Our people within the district did a phenomenal job of reworking that area where Liz was, where Juna Smith was, where Wobbling was, where I was, and making that into a 14-student DAP with Carol's.
Good.
It's good. It's really nice.
So with regard to Richie's question about using the same template for elementaries, we've talked about it in the past. When we get ready to design these next elementary schools, are we still intending to put in there that we own those drawings now versus leaving them owned by the architect and forcing us to have to go back to the same architect over and over?
That is something we can do. We haven't furthered the discussion as to whether or not we actually want to do that. But I have talked with the attorney. She said it's not a problem. It can be done. I have talked with the architects to get their input on that scenario. And honestly, none of them have actually ever done that.
Yeah.
They have never taken another firm's design and then turned it into, their own.
Right.
But
So I don't know that we would get anyone to do that, is what I'm saying.
But have they had the experience of giving the district their own architectural plans, giving them the ownership of them?
Say that again?
Have these architects that you've spoken with, do they have experience in contracts where the district owns the plans?
I did not ask that specific question, because I was more curious whether or not they would take designs that I gave them prepared by another firm and take those as their own and move it forward, and none of them ever
It
done
also
that.
opens up the door for us to, we talked about pricing and lead times, and the market's going up, it's not going down, right? And if we can do that, and we can look at other ways of procurement, there are plenty of ways to procure. We've done a few of them. There's others out there as well. There's a design build you could do as well that don't require, you just have stamped engineered drawings and somebody just comes in and builds it. Now you do have to shift it to fit the site,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want to give us, as a district, the most flexibility possible when it comes to cost.
Understand?
I can't think of any downside to owning the plans.
There's not a downside to it.
Right.
But if our
The-
intent is
oh.
to use that again with, another firm, say,
But
a
it gives us-
BRW, someone we're not
That's a
contracted with
potential
now,
downside.
that's where we
there
may
a
not be
fee?
able to carry that forward and utilize that design.
Yeah, that's potential design,
That's what
I mean, potential
jobs have you got here?
pitfall if another architectural firm doesn't want to use someone else's plans and
Multiple
they,
times.
then you ultimately have to go back to the original architect and you've already paid for a fee for those plans to own them, so. That, I could just see that as a scenario where another architect would want to touch the plans.
Or they start over, they copy it, call it their own, but they're charging us the
Charge
full
the same
rate,
fee,
and
yeah.
we haven't saved anything. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's something we can effectively work, but I can continue to talk with people.
So you're saying that, just for this instance, we've used the same architect, the same plan for
We
two
pay them the
schools.
full rate every
For
time.
two schools right now, and have paid them a handsome fee
Every time.
every time. But you're saying that if we asked for the plans this third time, then they'd actually charge us more.
No, I'm not saying they would charge us more, no, and I believe, I'd have to go back and verify
Okay.
to be certain, but I believe we only paid about 4% on the second elementary.
That's correct.
Instead of the typical full 6%, that's pretty typical in the industry.
They
Is that
did
4% after the fact and we calculated what the percentage was? Or was it a fixed cost?
I believe we did that one as a fixed cost,
We
which
did
is
one as
about
a
4%
fixed.
of the
And it
construction
worked out to be
budget,
4%.
Yeah.
not a percentage of
That-
construction
that
costs.
was-
But the construction costs have gone through the roof,
That
so.
was
Yes.
south
Yeah.
that we had the fixed cost on.
Okay.
I realize that it's something different. I just want to give this board, this administration, future boards, future administrations options. I don't like being, it's nothing new. Everybody knows it. I don't like being painted in a corner to have to use the same architect every time. Doesn't mean they've done a bad job. I just would like to be able to have a little bit of competitive nature to it. And I realize that's also difficult at times with professional services agreements, right?
Wouldn't a better approach, because I can't see a scenario where another architect's gonna stand by somebody else's plan. I don't ever see that being a viable. Why isn't it that, it's not that we've been unhappy with their work, we're just trying to contain cost. What I don't understand, I guess, is why from the beginning we haven't, or even now, negotiate let's just call it a partnership, for lack of a better word, with the guys that we actually have become intimately comfortable with. I mean, we have a strategic plan. We know how many schools we're gonna build over the next decade. Why can't we have an agreement with them that you put this work in, you charge us a fair price, we're gonna use it over and over and over again, and we'll pay you, as Craig said, for site development, but for the plans of the building, we're gonna keep using it. To me, that's the only way you're gonna save money. We're not gonna save money by owning plans and ask another architectural firm to stamp. This is never gonna happen.
Well, like, case in point, like the architectural firm that did Argyle West, like the bond oversight committee, I think Dave Helker directly went and spoke with them, and they gave us a fee. We're like, well, why? Why that fee? Well, that's just what everyone charges.
Right.
Well, we fought back on that, and I think that's where Mr. Helker and the bond oversight committee and Jeff ultimately were able to get that price down lower than what they said they had ever done. However, we took them everything and showed them the value of it. So I agree with you to a point. Like, obviously, you've got to meet an RFQ. I would think you can't just lock up one architect legally, and but I do think we have to continue those value type conversations, because it benefits the efficiency we get from them having a cookie cutter. That helps us time wise, but it also helps them as well. So it should be mutually beneficial for the district and for the architect. So
Absolutely, and Corrigan, that's who you're speaking of. I mean, they've not had any issues working with us to give us lump sum fees. And when you look at those, and I'm sure even going forward, that we'd be looking at fees that no longer represent 4% of a construction cost.
Right.
Because cost goes up, but we're still putting in the same effort to do the same design and build the same building, as far as from their perspective. So I have a feeling that there's going to continue to be more than willing to work with us if we continue and build more of that school with them, asking for lump sum fees, while all the material prices, of course, are skyrocketing.
Right, it's the only way we can do it nowadays. Material costs double, doesn't mean their work doubled.
Correct.
Right, so.
There's also other procurement processes you can use to build it. You don't have to.
I have an out-of-the-box question.
You just need a site plan developer. Use those
When we do all of this, the playgrounds are included in our elementary schools, correct?
Yes, they are.
Construction. I guess what I'd like to know is, and maybe from the elementary principals or Dr. Ruggles, how, is there a need for, has the program grown substantially since we've now taken it under our roof, for the possibility of an adaptive type playground, some playground equipment at the schools for some of our special needs students? Are they all able to utilize what's out there, or, I'm just throwing that out there as a thought.
I mean, I have the 2 life skills classes, so I have lots of students in wheelchairs. We would like to have like a wheelchair accessible swing set, things like that we don't have.
Okay.
A lot of our stuff is the climbing equipment, and of course
They can't do that.
don't have the ability to do that. So, yeah, I mean, there are some things that we would like to add to our playgrounds for our special needs children.
And you don't have any needs at
I have the special ed pre-K.
the pre-K?
We do have.
Right. Okay.
So they are able to access the playground equipment and use the
And be
specialized
okay. And Donna at Hilltop, same thing?
one specialized swing that we can put out or take down.
Okay.
That one child, I just have one child with that need, so we're able to accommodate her needs with removable and.
Right. I mean, I would, for me personally, I would like to possibly see, especially as we grow and we build more schools, and I know we'll add more kids in general, and obviously more special needs students, to consider putting in our plans maybe some adaptive playground equipment at some of the campuses, and particularly at some point, and I don't know budget-wise where anything is, but I just want to throw that out there. If we can do anything for West, that'd be great, but that's a whole other discussion. But I'm just thinking for you in the future, if we're
Sure.
doing, playgrounds, it probably wouldn't be that much of an addition at building time to maybe put some of those things on there, just in the.
Far less than after the fact, for sure.
Correct, yeah. I just want to lay that one out there, so.
Does anyone else have anything for Mr. Cohen? All right, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Ray?
Each of the 5 campuses had a wonderful Veterans Day program that was designed to bring veterans into the schools and designed to honor them. These programs were extremely well attended at all of the campuses, and the students and the staff invite relatives, and they also invite community members they know who are veterans. That's the way that they reach out. This is a wonderful way for the school and the students to engage with the community. Tomorrow night, we have the District Culture Night that everyone is invited to attend at South Elementary. It starts at 5:30. This is an informative event designed to celebrate the various cultures in Argyle ISD. We have 2 representatives who are newly elected in the North Texas area to the state legislature. Richard Hayes represents most of Argyle now in District 57. Ben Bumgardner is new in District 63. He represents east of 377 and south of 1171. Lynn Stuckey still represents the hills of Argyle and some of Country Lakes on the north side. He's District 64. So 2 districts were taken and 3 districts were made out of those 2 districts. Once we have talking points about the financial legislation for this session, we plan to invite the representatives out to talk with us about potential bills. Also, Tan Parker's the newly elected state senator for our district. Frisco's having a pre-legislative session conference for the North Texas Public Schools Legislative Network. Legislators are going to meet with school personnel and will be participating in the conference. Argyle's participating in a food drive for the community for Thanksgiving. Parents have been able to request a bag of food, which will be picked up on Thursday. Parents are also able to complete forms for Angel Tree, which will be available at the Thanksgiving food pickup. This Thanksgiving and Angel Tree program is also available to our employees if they have a need, even if they don't live in the district. Band and choir are both going to have concerts for the upcoming season. Middle school had a phenomenal production of the Addams Family over the weekend. Football is still playing and playing in the second round of playoffs this Friday. As you saw tonight, band was the BOA champion in their class 2A at Waco and in San Antonio. West is having a West Fest at the Harvest Front Porch tomorrow night from 5 to 8. So I would encourage, not tomorrow night, it's Thursday night. Tomorrow night is Culture Night and Thursday night is West Fest. That's from 5 to 8, so I would encourage you to go to that. We have a lot of activities going on and a lot of concerns about the upcoming legislative session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Stephen?
Okay, so first I have our annual SAT report. So these are, the scores that I'm going to share with you are from the graduating class of 2020. Okay, so it will be their, so remember if they take the test more than once, it's their most recent score is all that's calculated. Okay. Oh, okay. So a range of 400 to 1600. The evidence-based writing section, 200 to 800, math, 200 to 800, and then the college and career readiness benchmarks set for the SAT are 480 for the ERW and 530 for math. So I'm just showing you 3 years because if you remember the test was redesigned a few years ago, so this is just since the redesign. So we had 164 test takers. Our mean total score was 1145. Mean ERW score 577, 569 for math. 88% of our kids met the ERW benchmark. 63% met the math, and then both benchmarks were 62.
You said this is for 2020. But we're looking at the class of 2022.
2022
So
is what I should have said.
2022, okay.
Yes, if I
Okay.
said 2020,
so like
I apologize.
no.
Well, the graduating class of 2022.
Gotcha. So this is like last
Yeah.
year's. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. So our score from the prior year, went down 3 points. But if you look at scores across the state for SAT, and even globally, they are down over the last 3 years. And so I feel like ours have held pretty steady. Even if you look at it since 2020, they've increased. So I think our scores are overall pretty good and holding steady. This is a comparison for you just for the class of 2022 to Texas scores and then global averages. Then this is percentages of our students over the last 3 years that score over 1,000, over 1,200, and over 1,400. And then this is the class of 2022 compared to the class of 2022 in Texas, and then class of 2022 globally.
You go back a slide.
Sure.
So it looks like our we have a larger number of higher performers, but then our more average is not doing as well as it has historically. And so what do we hold that do you think that this higher number of higher performers is due to our classes and our special attention that we've given these kids for the ACT and SAT and PSAT scores?
Yes, I do think it's attention that the high school teachers have been focusing on. I think that's part of it. You talked about a decline, and yes, I think a lot of it when you look at the SAT and the ACT. Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2, so important for that test. Same with English 1, English 2. And so these students were going through those really important courses during COVID and shutdown and virtual learning and things like that. So I think it's remarkable that that our scores have held this steady.
I know I always have a special attention to ACT, SAT, et cetera, because parents don't realize until their first kid graduates how important those scores are.
Very
Not
important.
only for college admission. I know that's dropping on the boards of college admission because they're saying it's not fair to check those scores, but it's still a score, and also for scholarship attainment. It's absolutely a score. And so the more focus that we can put on this as a school district to help our parents who are having their first graduate, the better. Because we all realize that after our second kid graduates that we needed to get
Right.
them better scores.
When we were reviewing our GPA committee last spring, when we met, we had a college admissions advisor come and speak to the group, and he did a presentation over just what you were talking about, just admissions and what was important and what wasn't. And it's really a misconception about the ACT or the SAT not being crucially important to admissions when you look at the percentage of students who were admitted who didn't have an ACT or SAT score.
Okay.
The percentage is really, really low.
Yeah.
So, but you're right, it's very important, and it's really important money, for just scholarships. That's a big driver for that.
And we, I know, have historically had a class that we've basically highlighted individuals to do better on the PSAT, then it rolls over to ACT and SAT. My understanding, we don't have that this year. Do we have plans going forward to reintroduce that class and or have more corporate resources, instruction for parents and students around these specific tests?
Yeah, so we don't have any plans to reinstate the class. We just weren't seeing the results from it that we felt like we should. And two, it's not a weighted class, right? So they have to give up an elective to take it, and maybe it wasn't so appealing to our really high performing kids. But the second part of your question, yes, as far as just communicating with parents and making sure that they're aware of maybe different opportunities for SAT and ACT prep.
Okay.
Any other questions on SAT?
Good job on the teacher's part. All you guys to get them there.
Yeah.
Great schools.
So the next report that I have for you is ACT. Same thing, class of 2022. At the top, I shared with you just what the college-ready minimum scores are for ACT. ACT, the College Board. And then the second part of that is a summary of Argyle High School over the last 5 years. And so for most of those scores, if you go back to 2018, they're holding pretty steady, or you're seeing an increase.
Especially over COVID.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, right. So you may see a dip, from last year to this year, or, a dip here and there, but if you look at the span over 5 years, you're seeing an increase in all of those areas. And that did not happen with the state and national scores. If you go back and look at those, there's been a steady decline for ACT on both state and national scores since 2018, so even prior to COVID. Then the bottom part of that is the percentage of our students over the last 5 years in each of those categories that met what ACT considers their college readiness standards. So you can see that we're considerably higher than the state's performance.
Can you remind me the number of students, this says 143 taken here, how much was it for SAT? Do you remember how many?
Uh-huh.
It was
Was
160.
164. 164.
About 50/50.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm sorry, one more question.
Sure.
Do we have any idea, and maybe it's none, how many of those students took both?
Oh, yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, so I don't have a percentage for you, but
Majority take both?
yes, we have that. You'll have some who took both. You'll have some who took one or the other. But yes, we have that information. I don't have it here for you tonight, but we do have it.
Okay.
Anything
Better
else?
than my scores. I know that.
All right.
Thankfully,
Thank you,
that
guys.
transcript's gone.
Great job.
It's a low bar.
Get into college now if you have scores.
Good.
Principal Funderburg.
What were we at, 26 or something? What's that? ACT was at 26 and SAT was 16. Now. It wasn't 36, was it? Oh, okay.
All right, I'm just going to hit the high points of the major changes that we made this year in our campus improvement plan. First and foremost, in our instruction action plan, I made sure to add all of our specialists now, since their role has changed just a little bit, and so they're helping to implement all of the new curriculum. They're helping with the curriculum writing and coaching teachers and going in and checking on the teachers instruction-wise and helping them as well. So I felt like they were important enough. I need to include them in all of the action steps for our instruction plan. As far as strategy 1, specific result 1, we have some new curriculum that we added this year. So we did the Lucy Calkins phonics, the units of study, and then the Haggerty. We use that as well in K through 2, so that was added. We also added the implementation of the STEM scopes and Kessler Science for pretty much everybody. We use STEM scopes, and then Kessler is primarily for 5th grade science. A lot of our changes was just to mirror the district improvement plan, the changes that we made for the district one, so we made those changes on ours as well. Something else that we added, or not really added, but I moved. So the district changed their character development, guidance, and counseling, that title, so we changed that on ours, and we took all of our safety that was listed under there, and I moved it under facilities, because that's kind of what we're focusing on now, is making our facility safer. And so we added some of the safety procedures that we've done this year, as far as, keeping interior, exterior doors locked at all times, checking those frequently throughout the day. We've talked about using the Centegix badges that we've added to our plan as well. Our threat assessment teams that we have working with students in crisis. And then the only other real major thing we changed as far as attracting, retaining, and training staff, we do a whole lot with our teachers. We don't do a whole lot with our paraprofessionals. So we added something in our plan where we hold monthly meetings with our paraprofessionals, because they really are the glue that kind of holds our whole building together. And we wanted to give them opportunity to have a voice and to share input and have any questions or concerns, so we do that with them on a monthly basis. So really, that's the only major things that we added or changed to our plan this year. Any questions?
No, I think adding the paraprofessionals is a good deal.
We wanted to let them know that they're very valued. So.
Very much so.
All
Are
right.
there any other issues that you're facing that you think you want to start planning for in the future? You know,
That's a loaded
aside from
More
high growth.
students.
Aside from high growth.
Just bring a big list.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had bugs here and there that we've kind of worked out along the way. You know, I know we've had some issues with our speaker system, and Greg's done a really good job trying to get that fixed, and the Centegix things, trying to get those fixed. So everybody's got a plan in place to get those things worked out. But, you know, we're running real smooth, you know. It's very nice to have less students this year, but I know I'll be right back in that boat next year. But you know what? School's school, so it doesn't really, if we have 1,000 kids or 850 kids, we still come to work and do our job to the best of our ability. So we make it work. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Jordan.
Most of what's in my plan you're going to hear from Renee and Donna, because of course we used our district plan as our main guide, but we also used the other campus plans to help, because we were starting from the very beginning with our plan. So I'm not really going to go over the changes because they're all new, but they're going to be very similar to everything you're going to hear from our other principals. I did want to highlight some of the things that are more particular to our campus based on our school family. One of them is an emphasis on building cultural awareness. We have 24% of our students are Asian, 17% are Hispanic. We have over 140 limited English proficiency students who qualify for the ESL program. So because of that, that is one of the areas that we're really focusing on very intentionally. Training new teachers on the district curriculum. 54% of our staff members are new to Argyle, and Lucy Calkins is new, Greg Tang is new, so we're a particular emphasis on training our teachers on, and our aides as well, to become familiar with those curriculums. Highlighting the importance of attendance, just because that's so important. We want to get those distinctions, and we want to be able to check that box right away. It's been a little bit of a struggle for us starting out. We have a lot of families who are taking extended vacations out of the country, so it's something that we're building awareness of. Also because we have a lot of students who have moved from out of state. They're not familiar with the 90% rule, so we've had to really spend some time educating our parents on those things. Writing across grade levels and subjects is going to be particularly important for the new STAR test, so that is something else that we're emphasizing. And as well, utilizing the online tools for assessments. I think almost everything else that Renee said is also part of our plan, with the emphasis on these areas I just mentioned. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Mrs. Lumsden.
I think it will be a little redundant because the three of us, I think, do a good job of staying pretty cohesive in what we do. I did also add the district level curriculum specialist into our curriculum piece because that's a big help to us. For me, one of my goals this year, not official goals, but just personally for me, is to become a better coach of our teachers. So I added to our plan the fidelity of delivering our district adopted curriculum, because that's something I really want to make sure that I have my pulse on this year. So things like Lucy Calkins, Greg Tang. We have added an action plan under our curriculum and instruction for our GT and our ESL teachers to share teaching strategies with our whole staff. So that pulls from the knowledge we have within to help grow our own teachers, because those strategies, even if they're marketed to be for EBL or for GT students. It's just good teaching, things you can do that help all students. So we're in PLCs and team meetings, they're coming to those and sharing strategies. Attendance is something I'm focusing on this year. My first 2 years were COVID years, so that wasn't really something we could hammer. And what I really like about adding that is it's important to me to mentor my new AP. So I'm helping her learn that whole tracking the attendance and when to send letters and when to call. So that's a way that I can grow her while I make the campus better too. Specifying to use lead forward for our academic vocabulary so it's consistent across the whole district, I think is important. And then the only other area where I added something new was in the facilities and learning spaces, and that's where I focused on safety, just like Renee said. That's it.
Thank you.
And Mr. Slayton, thank you for the pie in the face. That was very enjoyed.
I'm glad that wasn't part of the strategic plan.
It tasted
Did you see his game of musical chairs
where he moved?
at high school?
I heard he broke it.
That was Coach Pierce that broke it. That was not me. I was in the chair. He broke it with me in it.
We have video.
I got several budget comments about that. Who's paying for the chair?
Specific
Who's paying for
result,
the
are
chair?
you able to, you got it, specific result 2, if you could go there. I hope when I see you in December, that will be the day before I get a knee replacement. So I'm hoping by the time I see you in January that I'm moving around a little bit better. So want to start with the PLC time on strategy 1, specific result 2. Our tested subjects, we have a common PLC time, and my hope and what we're wanting to get out of it is by the end that we're able to look at STAR results, and we're able to look at CBA results, and we're able to look at data and determine that the PLC time is a worthy time for us to make for these teachers to be able to utilize together. Because when you have a middle school that has almost 1,200 students in it and you have a number of teachers teaching the same thing, as Dr. Wright has often said, we want to make sure that we give these students a similar experience as they go through. So the PLC time is a definite add that we have. The RACE, which is an acronym for restate the question, answer all parts of the question, cite the text, and explain your citation. We are working on, as you guys had, the board had, as increasing writing throughout the school district. And so we took that upon us to try to work to get writing better. Then in the same year, they take the exact writing test away and they incorporate writing into the other STAR tests. And in doing so, it makes it a little more difficult to measure that. So we are making a concerted effort to work on writing in not just the English language arts classes. And it has gone very, very well. We have that data stored for each one of their students' race examples. And I feel like that is, it's really, we have a lot of good buy-in with the staff, and so I'm feeling very good about it. And then last one is from number 1, instruction, and specific result number 4 has to do with professional development. I know Dr. Stieber had talked about wanting to have a district-wide where we have teachers who run our staff development, and I feel like from a campus level that we have begun to do some of that. And I think some of this has come about. There aren't a lot of good things that happened during COVID, but I think one of the things that happened was the amount of technology that our teachers were, I wouldn't say forced to do. A lot of them were already doing things, but they were forced to get better at doing a lot of technology things. And so we had a number of teachers on our last 2 staff development days that led staff development having to do with things like Canva and Nearpod, instructional strategies, co-teach, and digital notebooks, and all of those things to try to help with our instructional practices. And so I think from that standpoint that those are 3 big changes that we've tried to implement here with the middle school. With that, I'll entertain any questions that you have. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. King?
we accept cash or RevTrak for that cheer. Either would be fine.
Well, I want to know who's paying for the whipped cream on the cheerleading mats.
I think that's on me.
Okay.
Actually, it was on Mr. DeLay.
Okay, all right.
Literally on Mr. DeLay.
It was literally on his.
Did he get a broken nose? That looked like that was pretty hard.
I know it. She got him good.
Was that Kate that got him?
Yeah.
Yeah. She hit him hard.
You look excited.
Yeah.
All right, just to hit the highlights of the changes to our strategic plan. Under instruction, we really wanted to focus this year on closing the gaps. I think the last time I stood before you, we talked about how COVID, I know we blame a lot of things on COVID, but there are instructional gaps in the kids' learning because of COVID. So a couple things that we're doing to try to close those gaps are you allowed Dr. Stieber to hire a math and science specialist. They've come over and helped our staff. They've helped us with some common assessment writing. They've helped us with the new design of the STAR test. It looks different this year. And so they've helped us with what the questions are going to look like so we can start designing those questions in our classrooms so that they've seen them, or at least seen the format before they jump into the test and have to take those. We are working on our common assessments. We've grown to the point where we have multiple teachers teaching the same subjects. Just in the last few years, we've got to that point. So we want to make sure that we have common assessments so we can see where the gaps are between teachers, between kids. So we use our PLC time, we use mega lunch time, we use our PD days to work on writing common assessments. And the last thing on closing the gaps, House Bill 4545 is legislation that you're probably aware of, where we have to work with kids that have not been successful on the STAR test. So we have a bigger effort this year to really help those kids, getting them the tutorial times they need, really focusing on their gaps and helping them. In our counseling area, our counselors, talking with them, they wanted to have a much more visible presence in our school and in our school community. So I think some of you were able to attend the FAFSA workshop that they've been putting together for the community. That is a graduation requirement now, so that's nice when parents can come up and they can help the parents with those documents. Some of you were able to attend their drug awareness program that they had on, that they put on earlier in October. And of course, they're working on our SOS program, which is our signs of suicide. And so they've also been visibly present in our cafeteria this year, which I'm very proud of. So every day at Mega Lunch, we have at least 2 counselors that are just sitting in the cafeteria. Kids can come up and meet with them, just talk with them. And they've got a lot of traffic and be able to help a lot of kids just by being visibly present in the cafeteria. With our facilities, most of you know, one of our concerns is parking. That, thanks to Jeff, that's starting to be addressed, and you can see some changes that are going to start happening over there. But that is one of our big concerns that we're looking at. The other is, while we still have empty classrooms, we don't have any science rooms that are empty. So we've had to do some makeshift science rooms. So we're focusing on how do we make those better for kids, and how do we give lab time to teachers that don't have a science lab. So that's another focus of our facilities for this year. And finally, under retention of teachers, that is a big push. That's one of our major campus goals. Teachers are harder and harder to get. Quality teachers are much more harder and harder to get these days. So making sure we're taking care of them, and specifically making sure that we take care of our new teachers. We have a mentoring program that Ms. Fowler has put into place to try to help our new teachers just learn how we do things in Argyle, why we do things the way we do, so that hopefully they're not caught by surprise and looking to leave. We want them to look to stay, especially those quality ones. So that's one of our focus this year. All right, any questions?
What are some of the things you're doing with the current teachers, the legacy teachers?
Well, just niceties for them. Drink days from Sonic. The PTO has been helpful with just little events for them to encourage them. PLC time is a big deal to our teachers, and just having that time. PD days and having time to meet with their department is important to them. So just little things like that to try to encourage them to stay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I agree. Retention, probably moving forward, is going to be one of your biggest challenges.
Absolutely.
So, man, anything you can do, I think, is great. You brought it up. What is the thinking behind that, requiring that FAFSA to be a part of a requirement for graduation.
No, that's not Argyle, that's.
No,
that's
no,
the
I know,
state.
no, I understand it's not our, but do you know, I've always wondered, I mean, when I saw that, what is the thinking behind? Like kids that don't go to college, why do those families have to fill out those?
I think it's anybody that wants financial aid in any way.
But it's now a requirement for
It's a
high school
requirement for
graduation.
high school
Yeah.
graduation.
What, it just seems so strange.
I think it's kind of, isn't it sort of a clearinghouse for anybody that wants to get financial aid for higher education, whether they go and get, you know, certification someplace else, or they go to a 4-year college.
Okay, anyway,
And
I didn't know if
there's
you knew
gonna be
this, I just thought it
I
was so
think it's a
odd.
way of making the opportunity known to all.
Yeah, for every kid that may or may, may eventually want to go to college. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
I entertain a motion to approve action item 11A as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Dr. Bitter, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Slayton, Mr. Pat Slayton with the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Mr. Ledford, is this you? This next action item, or is this Liz? Oh.
It's Mr. Garcia.
It's Mr. Garcia, man. I was wrong on all. Strike 3.
Yeah, I can see, we kind of look alike, right? Yeah, get a little mistaken.
I did see the similarity, but historically he's come to us with the truck,
Right.
so I apologize.
No, hey, no apology needed. I want to go ahead and take this time, go ahead and introduce myself. My name's Angel Garcia. I was the assistant maintenance director for the last 4 years, and I've actually been here at Argyle for going on 6 years now. So I know I got some big shoes to fill, and hopefully I'm going to try my best to do what I got to do to get this ball, still keep it rolling. So today we are here, we're planning on adding a new vehicle to the maintenance fleet. This vehicle has already been budgeted for our 22-23 M&O budget. Our department is growing, and we are following our vehicle replacement plan outlined in our 5-year plan. We have added 4 new members to our staff this year, and we are asking to purchase one Ford F-150. This vehicle will be used for the maintenance staff to travel throughout the district to perform repairs. This vehicle will not be used to pull any band or football trailers. The cost of this vehicle is right under $35,000, and the maintenance department recommends the approval of the purchase of the Ford F-150.
Is this a used vehicle? I mean, you got a pretty good deal on that if it's new.
Actually, I did. I've been looking for several months and finally found somebody. It's right under, I think it was 34.9 something. We lucked out on that one because everything else, I got 3 quotes here. One of them was in the 40s. Anything else, it was up there.
And it's in stock?
Yes, sir. Yes.
We need to go car shopping with you.
Let me know when you find another
Take you with us.
I have a random question outside of this action item. You said the truck wasn't going to be used to pull any band or football trailers, but can the maintenance get the band trailer wrapped to maybe say maintenance on it, or not say band anymore because they're driving a band trailer around every day? Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Garcia?
You put that's a maintenance van, and then you put formally the Argyle ISD
It-
van.
it's the
state
trailer.
winners, state
Yeah.
champs, whatever.
But we're ruining, that's a classic.
I
We're
know.
ruining it if we do that.
Well, I get parents that email me, why is band driving all over the district? Well, they're not, so.
That's what they're worried about.
So, all right. Any other questions? Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. That was action item 11B.
You did good, Mr. Garcia.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even make a motion.
Yeah, I was
I'm
like,
sorry.
wait a minute, nobody.
I'll entertain a
Hold
motion
on,
after
you gotta
the
come
fact.
back.
Hold on. No, he doesn't have to come back.
Yeah, let's make him do it right.
No,
He
that's
messed
me
him
that
up.
did
Oh,
it
I'm sorry,
wrong.
he messed it up.
I did it wrong. You did nothing wrong.
Hold him to it. He messed you up.
No,
You messed him up.
Mr. Garcia, you're allowed to sit down. It's fine, Mr. Hawksworth. Mr. Hawksworth's out of line here. Can I entertain a motion? I'm sorry. Can I entertain a motion to approve action item 11B as presented?
I thought
Since you asked so nice,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Deffenbaugh, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Western, second. All in favor, you say aye.
Again, aye.
Aye. Again, aye. Any opposed this time? No. All right. I apologize for my lack of decorum. Forgive me. Please. All right, Mr. Cohen.
Okay.
Action item 11C you are presenting.
11C. So this is for requesting approval for our design fee for our Verkada camera replacement and access control replacement for middle school, west, intermediate, and Hilltop. Got a fixed fee for this service, and I'm asking for a not to exceed, allowing for some potential additional services if we discover things along the way. So fixed fee is $11,500, requesting a not to exceed of $16,500, which would cover any additional services or reimbursables for plan printing, things like that. This is a Corrigan project, since they had all of the campuses already done in their AutoCAD. It was quickest for them to be able to develop this plan and get this set of documents out for bid.
I'm just curious, what is the plan? Is that where would we put the security cameras? That's what we're paying for?
It's paying for specifications. It's going to be paying for the plan, which is basically going to show them existing locations, and it's a one-for-one swap. We've got to get all that documented on paper, and I know it's been a question for a lot of times why we've got to have this. There are a lot of rules when it comes to architecture and engineering, and I don't memorize them all, but if you have over, I think it's if you're over $7,000 and you involve electrical or mechanical engineering, you've got to have an engineer. If you get over a certain dollar value, 50,000 I think it is, you've got to have an architect. So most all of our projects these days are of a size and a nature that we're going to require the architect or engineer to help us with those, just to stay compliant with all of these laws.
Why do you have an architect doing safety and security designs? I mean, do they have people with that qualification?
They have the consultants. So they're using consultants, but they're the ones that take that and put the documents together.
But who are we buying the material from? I mean, we're buying them from a
So Verkada doesn't do their own design?
No, they sell, well, the third parties sell the products. They don't sell it direct.
So you're using a partner, a distributor for Verkada here?
Well, we have to have these plans before we can even put it out to bid for those people to bid on it for that project.
You're saying legally you have to have them?
That's the way
Yes.
It's not even a question.
It's really not even a question.
Okay.
It does seem strange, though, that you have an architect bidding out an access control and video camera system. You would think it would be a video engineer or something of that nature. Not
It is.
Well, they're
contracted.
like I said, they're using a consultant. They're
So why
using their
would we go
electrical
straight to the
engineer.
consultant, I guess, is my point.
Well, I don't have an agreement in place with them. Corrigan is charging
Back to professional
$1,500 fee on top of this, but that takes care of any permitting that we've got to do, which the engineers would not do.
So it's back to a professional services agreement.
It is.
It sounds like they're helping out. I mean, they're basically being the go-between.
Oh, absolutely.
Saving you some time.
They will be out on the
It's not so
project inspecting the
different
work as it progresses.
When we built the auditorium and the band hall, and we had an acoustical engineer. Same sort of thing.
Any other questions for Mr. Cohen? I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 11C as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawkworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Westrom, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Oh, this is yours too. I had a follow-up question from before, so y'all just tell me when I can ask that.
From 11C?
No, from the discussion I had earlier with Jeff up here about the playground stuff.
Okay. I guess you can go ahead and ask him. That's fine.
Sure.
It's not an action item.
Yeah, it's not an action item. I just want to know if it's reasonable to see what it might cost to retrofit some playground equipment for West. Doesn't mean we're, I mean, I have no clue budget-wise or anything like that, but I also don't know how much it would be.
Yes, actually, I talked with Mr. Bell last week. We were emailing.
Okay.
And he was wanting some vendors, and so I inquired what for, and it had to do with some swings and adaptive swings.
Okay.
And since I was actually contacting him anyway on the Hilltop, I said, I'll take care of that for you. So I'm actually currently waiting on some budget pricing that I'll get back through him.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I'd be
that's
just
already in the
curious
works.
to see what that, what that entails.
Absolutely.
And does West have room? That's the other question, but it's okay. Okay, thank you. That's what I need to know.
Okay, next item. With the different properties that we're looking at and working on entering into contracts and things, then we have inspection periods and timelines, along with all of that entails surveys that we've got to get of different types. Could involve a number of environmental investigations, perhaps, a lot of different services that we're required to move quickly on to meet these deadlines. So in an effort to be able to do that, we're asking for a not to exceed of $125,000, which would be used for those types of services, topographic surveys, boundary surveys, expenses that we need toward platting as we work through these closing processes. So there's not a specific contractor or specific amount identified here, but asking for the approval allows us to proceed through those things much quickly to try to meet those contract deadlines.
How many sites do you think this would pay for?
I think we could easily cover 3 sites with this, maybe even 4. I wanted to make sure it was enough that there was, not going to be any need to come back. I think it is plenty.
And the good thing about this is that this helps us avoid any surprises after you close.
Yes, that's what the investigations would do if we determine we need to do those along the way to make sure that we do want to follow through with the closing. And so we're looking for those things that may show up and that we don't want to close on a property for that reason.
This is typical stuff that buyers do before they close on property.
Would this cover the appraisals?
It
I don't
could
know
cover
that.
appraisals.
Yeah. But if I remember correctly, didn't we already approve some geotechnical?
We did,
Yes,
but I was
we-
looking forward to other properties, and I just wanted to make sure we had that cushion if we encountered a property that we thought we might need to do some kind of investigation before we close, versus just investigation in order to build.
But that approval's not in this 125, would be in addition?
The geotechnical investigation for building of Elementary 4,
Yeah.
that has already been approved.
That's above and beyond this 125.
That's above and beyond this.
And was that like, I don't remember what that was. Do you remember that?
I want to say it was on the order of
I thought
34,000.
it was 35, yeah, that's what I wanted to guess. Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Cohen? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 11D as presented.
So moved.
Dr. McDade, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Westrom, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
So I have an item here for network equipment. This is equipment that's going to go into West and make it have the equipment that we have in the rest of the district so that we have a more cohesive environment and one umbrella to manage this technology. It allows us additional control in what we can do with both with security and the network flow. We've had issues with speakers over there cooperating since we've upgraded the rest of our network. And I was hoping to hold out one more year on this upgrade, but I think due to safety concerns and making sure that we have everything working correctly in that building, we need to go ahead and do that upgrade now. This is money from the 2022 bond. I have a line item in there for network and infrastructure upgrades of $300,000, and I initially budgeted out of the $300,000 total, $200,000 for network equipment and $100,000 for firewall. And so we're actually getting both of these items for the listed on the quote. I believe it's 182, but I put a 2 not to exceed in case I need any additional network connectors for completion, anything that may come up.
That's a good deal.
But why are we, we're spending $190,000 to upgrade the network on this pretty new school?
So
why is this necessary?
$120,000 is for the network. We have right under 4 years of usage, and this rubs me the wrong way just slightly because I don't like taking equipment out this early. But just like with the Verkada system that we're putting into that building soon as well, West was built at a time of a lot of changes within this district, and we had a lot of issues with climate tech. So we've already started going towards, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. We had them for other technology type systems that run the buildings, and we've had to rip and replace a lot of those systems. So it's not just the network equipment. It's my opinion that it was just an inopportune time when that campus came online and we were changing a lot of things within the district, that unfortunately it's just time that we're going to have to upgrade that equipment to make the other systems in that school operate correctly.
So we put the climate tech in during the build?
Yeah, that
Okay,
climate
so
tech is, as far as a badge system, that is what's being used right now. So when we go forward with Verkada for both video cameras and physical access, it will change that in that building as well.
Are we going to, but we've already upgraded the other buildings, or are we going to do this for every other building?
That will be for Hilltop, for West, for intermediate, and for middle school. That's separate. That's
not
other
climate
information. This item is just for West and district firewall. But that's additional background. And I will say, like I said, it rubs me wrong having to do an upgrade this early, but I believe it's the best for the safety in that campus to make the other systems work better. But I will tell you, historically, I've got about 10 years of use out of network equipment. So as an overall ROI, if you figure in 4 years only of use of that equipment, our district ROI on the equipment is much higher than that. It's just an inopportune time when that campus came online, and shortly thereafter we started changing systems.
So where do you see this in the future as we semi-rapidly build more campuses and working with the system? You see it long-term?
I do see it long-term.
As long-term as technology can be.
Yeah, right. I do see it long-term. So for example, a lot of companies that I talk to, they estimate 5 years of use over for network equipment. And for the middle school, intermediate, Hilltop, trying to think, I guess those are the only 3 that I'm referring to right now. I've received 10 years of use of the equipment that's in there, so I'm by far exceeding the industry standard. I just think it's unfortunate that we haven't got as much use out of this, but it's advantageous to the district to have one system. One of the other things that I think about in the long term is right now I do all of the configuration for the network equipment that we have in the district, and that's rare. Normally you have a full-time network administrator, and especially in schools, that person is usually not or does not have the expertise to do a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now. So you also have implementation charges. Usually it's 20% of the equipment cost is what you pay to have that equipment put in. And so for example, this equipment, I'm doing all the configuration, and I have a technician that helps me rack and stack the equipment. So by me doing that, we're seeing huge savings, but I still have to plan long term. I can't always do that myself as we're growing. So by the equipment that we're putting in now, it's much easier to manage, and we have a lot more insight on what's going on. So I believe I'm going to be able to hire a more junior person that will see significant savings versus a full-time network admin that would be at the level of what I'm doing right now. I don't think we can afford that. Even district-wide, our biggest cost is salaries. So in my opinion, any place that I can see to save salaries is a huge win. And this equipment allows me to bring somebody in that's not quite as much of an expert.
And then we save the 20%, or well, we are now, but that mean that would,
Yeah.
over time as we grow. Okay.
Greg, is there any resale value on the network equipment?
We can definitely see. Network equipment, well, actually electronic equipment, does not necessarily hold a whole lot of value in the long run.
I mean, but this is brand new. It's got 6 more years left in it, just not here.
I like to look at it
I mean,
as
small-
if
that's what I
5
was
years
thinking,
is
like,
the norm, we've got
It's
close.
not that it's bad equipment, right? It's just it doesn't fit our configuration.
Correct.
So that's why I was wondering about that as well.
It would be hard, in my mind, and I could be wrong, but it would be hard to sell equipment of that age to somebody for any meaningful money, knowing that it already has a limited life.
If it was steeply discounted, which is worth, nothing.
So this position, would they also be doing maintenance or just on the network? I mean,
So,
could
so
be-
the plan is right now is that it would be a network and security specialist. So we also, as security is one of our greatest concerns right now, we have a lot of systems that integrate and run different security aspects within the district that we have a huge need there. So it would be part-time network and part-time security.
But that's not on this agenda.
No,
right?
no.
Okay, all right.
So you don't expect to come back in 4 years on South and say we need to do a $200,000 network?
Absolutely not.
But he didn't expect us to have to do this either.
Mhm.
And I think, I've known you a long time now, Greg, and I think, for me, on these big ticket items that I know nothing about, one reason I've been able to say yes so many times, I've learned to trust what you do and say. But this is a pretty big blunder, and I'm not saying it's your blunder, but it's a pretty big blunder for the district. So, man, it's pretty hard to swallow for me, and I hope like heck that this is a one-off deal, because you can make excuses and rationale, all kind of problems, but this is a huge blunder. And being a guy who voted for it, it's not nice. So I hope this doesn't happen again, because otherwise it's going to be hard for lay board people who continually have to approve large sums of money to be as comfortable as I have certainly become.
I completely understand where you're coming from. One of the things that makes me feel better about it, but like I said, I completely understand where you're coming from. If this allows me the ability to hire a person that might be a $60,000 a year position versus having to have someone that's a much more expert that I may not even be able to hire for $100,000 a year that would know how to operate the equipment, $40,000 a year over several years is a huge savings.
But that's true whether or not we had to replace our equipment before it's due or not. Being able to find those kind of savings will be true either way. So,
You said up front that this is, you basically have $300,000 budget off this last bond, and you're spending $200,000 of it here. You're comfortable you won't need the other $100,000 shortly, or more than $100,000 shortly?
So most of my bond projects that I've budgeted for in past bonds, everything has come in under budget. I'm a stickler for going after the vendors, making sure that they're giving me the best absolute pricing that I can get. We've been able to do additional projects. We were able to buy more Chromebooks with the savings that we had on other projects. So it'll get spent somehow, but what the money was dedicated for is done. So we have slightly over $100,000 left in savings we can use for whatever other projects may arise.
So you said you're getting, for 182, you're getting what you would have gotten for 300, or?
300 is what I budgeted.
Yeah. You're getting for 182, so you have 118,000 roughly
Right.
left.
And that's not 100, I hope that didn't come across that way. That's not 182,000 for West. 120,000 of that is the equipment. The other 60 is for now this cohesive environment that runs the whole district. So now that all of the equipment is the same, we can get further security insights and management of what's going on in the district.
And I think I remember when we went from the other company you talked about. Climatech to this. I remember having long discussions about that. And this one you would feel comfortable with, like I said, out in the short term at least, with the additional buildings that we're putting down.
Absolutely. I wouldn't choose any other product.
So that everything matches from here on in.
Yeah, one of the biggest difference between the two products is the old equipment. I have to do everything command line, so I have to know all the codes. It's a black screen, and I have to know what every command does. The new equipment, it's a graphical interface, so a GUI. So visually, I can see what's going on the network. I can see what all the clients are doing, what they're connected to, what they're accessing. It's a much more user-friendly environment that you don't have to be so specialized to operate.
You can do that.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for Greg?
Good job doing that.
I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 11E as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Matt Slayton, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. Can I ask a question that was, kind of came out of that, of Mr. Ledford? Is West the only school with Climatech left? Okay. I know we did the E3 job and went to what, Environmatics?
Is the plan for it to keep West or ultimately move it over as well?
Once it runs out of warranty.
With Verkada, Climatech will be taken over with Verkada when we incorporate Verkada in the whole district. That's the security side of it.
Just from the access control side, and not from the
operational,
not from the HVAC side.
Right. The HVAC side is still Climatech, and we don't have any plans in the immediate future to do anything with it.
And that has is it a 5-year warranty? I think it was 5 years, right? So I think we decided we wanted to wait
for at least that time
for
period.
at least that. We had already done the getting out of Climatech to Environmatics everywhere else, and Verkada everywhere else. But that school had just opened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We
okay.
didn't really have a plan going forward with that. We didn't know all of the problems until that was already purchased.
Yep.
That-
I remember. Well, we chose not to get out of it because we just bought it and had 5-year warranty. Okay.
All right. Mr. Rutledge? And I guess right. I could have gone to Tommy for buses, could have gone to Liz for buses. Mr. Rutledge was hiding right behind Tommy this time.
It's my whole plan. I sleep that way. Good evening, everybody. How are you? All right. I was able to get another grant to buy new buses to help with our growing district. Grant provided $119,925 to replace 2 of our older buses. We'll have to destroy those buses before they give us that money back as a rebate. And we're asking for an additional 77-passenger bus as well as a wheelchair or adaptive bus for our students with special needs. Bond funds will be used. The whole $539,316 has to come out initially, but after we get the $119,925 rebate, it'll cost us $419,391.
So what are the 2 that we're getting rid of very old and very high mileage? And
Yes, sir.
wanna
One
get
of them is
rid
being
everyone?
used by the football team as a practice bus, and one is being used as a spare bus when things are broken down. They don't have the seat belts. These will be seat belts.
I was going to ask you, what percentage of our buses now have seat belts?
I'd say better than 50%. I don't know for sure, but better than 50%. And as we grow, every bus we buy will be seat belt.
And I think I asked you before, seat belts are still not legally required in school buses, correct?
The state requires us to put them in unless we have a financial reason why we cannot put them in. And you guys would have to have a statement why we cannot afford to put seatbelts in school buses.
But for that 50%, where are we?
I'm understanding your
The
question.
50% that don't have seatbelts currently,
Right.
where are we? We're okay legally, or
Yeah,
what?
legally we're okay because we bought them. They were designed to have seatbelts at that time, so
Yeah.
that's not a problem.
You're just talking about buying buses for
moving
going
forward.
forward.
Moving forward from the
If you
20.
buy them without seatbelts, you have to make a financial claim.
That is correct.
Right.
But the ones we have are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
grandfathered in.
They were designed before the requirement was put into place.
What's the lifespan of a bus in the district? I mean,
About 12 to 15 years, depending on the bus use. Our trip buses have more miles on them. However, they don't get as much stop and go as a regular route bus would. So our route buses take more of a beating than a trip bus does.
but we get 12 to 15 years per bus.
About that, yes, sir. At 12 years, we start looking to replace them. We have some 15 years old. We have some bed buses with almost 200,000 miles on it that we are utilizing because of the growth of our special needs community.
Question for you. Do we have routing software? Are there some efficiencies as a district grows to where we don't need a ratio of bus to student like we've always had? Meaning, because if you get tighter elementary school windows and middle school windows, et cetera, is there software that indicates you don't need double the buses?
The software does have I'm gonna call it artificial intelligence put into it that we're using right now, but I think our staff, myself, Mike, and Michelle can do almost better than what the software is suggesting to do based on how well we know the district. The computer is just putting things together. It can give us counts of how many kids are on a bus, how many students are assigned to a specific route, and then we gotta use historical data to determine how full the buses will be. We have about 50% of our student population register for transportation. Of that, about a third of the students of the district population actually ride the bus.
Right.
So we use that data where the software uses the whole, everybody that's registered to ride the bus.
Yeah, which is probably wiser.
So,
I've got a question, and it's probably, do these neighborhood elementary schools cut down on your transportation stress significantly?
no.
They don't?
No,
Okay.
they have secondary siblings that gotta go to the middle school or high school campuses.
So citing, when you're looking at, hey, I want an elementary school in this neighborhood, that's a good thing for transportation, or is it really?
It helps with the elementary level, we'll say elementary, so that's what we're building right now, it seems like. It helps with the K through 4, K through 5 right now. But those 5th graders going to the 6th grade center next year, those kids have to be transported to that campus. And so we don't have to transport as many, so we're taking all the 5th graders, that this year will be 6th graders next year, to that campus. So we have, just like we're going to the high school, we're going to the middle school, now we're taking all these kids that live in that neighborhood to another campus. And that's what we're looking at for next school year, trying to determine of our 5th graders who's riding today, who's gonna ride next year to the 6th grade campus, excuse me. I can't say 5th grade, those are the kids I'm looking at.
But am I thinking of this right, that south and west, being in neighborhood communities, have more people walking and riding?
Oh, absolutely.
As opposed to Hilltop, there's more people on the bus?
That is correct, absolutely correct.
I asked probably a stupid question. No, it won't be my last stupid question ever, but tonight.
Do you want to preface that one too?
When I,
While you're standing
when I
there.
used to have to drive my daughter down to high school, and thank goodness I don't have to anymore, she's driving. And she has a parking space, thank you. But so I basically passed the middle school, and I would be behind and around at least 4 to 5 buses that had dropped off of the middle school, then they all drove down to the high school. And I'm just wondering, is there a hub system available where you have?
Sure, and we have used hub systems in the past, and right now we're looking to use them again. Last year, 2 years ago, we used a hub system at Hilltop, where we took all the Hilltop kids on 4 buses across to the intermediate school. We used the hub system at the intermediate school a few years ago, when all the buses came from West and Hilltop and drove those kids to the other campuses. Next year, we're looking at separating the morning routes for the middle school and the high school, just like they're run right now. So all the south and high school buses would be on, all the south kids would be on one route, morning and afternoon, and all of the west kids that are it's one bus for west, so that's not it talking away. But all the Hilltop kids would be on the same route, morning and afternoon. Right now, to get everybody covered, we kind of blend the two buses together, depending on who's available to get them to their campuses on time.
Any other questions for Mr. Rutledge? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve action item 11F as presented.
Motion to approve item 11F.
All right, Mr. Wester, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matt Slayton, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good job getting the grant.
Thank you.
Yes.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yours has more commas.
Was that?
So yours has more commas.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it does.
And
A
more
few
digits.
more. A few more digits. So tonight, this is bringing you a request for approval of our general contractor for the intermediate and admin renovation over at 800 Eagle Drive. We received 3 bids last Tuesday. The second page, if you want to pull it up, you can, but you've probably seen it. There's 3 bids. We had Cavalry Construction, MSB Constructors, and Poe Construction. So after going through, reviewing all the proposals, discussing it, Cavalry Construction was scored and ranked highest of the 3. They did have the lowest base bid price. They had a little bit longer duration, 220 calendar days. But ultimately, their score with their qualifications, experience with the district, similar type projects, et cetera, caused them to be ranked higher. So we're requesting approval of $4,971,734 as their contract price. And that would be for an immediate start on renovations.
Is this a GMP?
This is not a GMP, this is a fixed price.
CSP?
Does have a contingency in it. We did bid it as a CSP, so we did get qualifications and go through all of that.
I believe you said earlier that this is coming in over budget.
This is over budget.
Okay, and by how much?
I believe the original budget was $4.1 million on
Okay.
that project, I
And
believe.
that includes architect, that includes all.
That was all in.
All the fees.
Yes.
What else what have we paid architects for this? And what are we gonna end up being told to spend?
I was running numbers earlier this evening. I believe the all-in cost, because there were some projects done earlier, so there was a roofing project that was done several years ago, which was taken out of that budget. Some flooring replacement has come out of that budget already, but I believe the all-in cost is going to be about $6.8 million, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So
With this project and
Has
things that
Calvary-
have already been done.
Has Calvary ever bid one of our jobs before?
They have not bid a project, but we have used them. They did the repairs when we had the floods back in February of '21.
Snowpocalypse.
That was the contractor that we used back then. They're a TASB approved, a Region 11 contractor.
Do you have personal knowledge of other jobs they've done, or?
I do not have personal knowledge. Tommy and his group have done a couple of different jobs with them. The one I know of is the February '21 damages. I think he's done another
We had no
project.
business with integrity either prior.
No, no.
But every time, I mean, that's a big enough price delta, you have to pay attention to it, but it just seems like when you have a build a relationship, you have a team that gives you good products on time, you know, it just seems,
It's
I guess.
worth another $1 million.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's 25%.
They did a really good.
No, I said, wait, time out. I said that the money's a big enough difference. I'm just saying, it's interesting that,
190,000?
let me tell you, 3 months overdue, and you're gonna start wondering about.
$1 million?
But let me
Right,
when
but
you say
you
over,
were behind on the high school water mitigation, like it wasn't, that's what they
Did, yeah.
That's what they did.
He's
Like,
just talking about other.
I would have to
you're just talking about
defer
those
to
general.
Tommy on some of those
just
specifics,
It
because I
was
really wasn't
middle
involved
school
with
and
that.
Hilltop.
So what I want to know,
Yeah.
just
But I
because
guess-
I'm
Yeah.
new,
No, I said minus the price. But
is this the budget
Actually,
that
my
you said
point
we're
was, you can't go
over?
back and
Is that a
negotiate.
No,
budget
CSP, that's a
that
good question.
was based on the 2017 bond?
Yes,
Like, so
this is a
clarify
2017
what
bond
you
project.
And so the number that you said we thought we were gonna do this for $4 million was based on what we were estimating in 2017.
Yeah.
2016, actually.
2016, so the problem is that we're doing a 2016 project in 2022.
We've got a lot of inflation that's hitting us, of course.
But that's on everybody's bid. My question,
You're
what
gonna
I was
have
trying
the
to
same thing with the
clarify
bond
was.
just passed.
the
It's
way-
already happened.
Hold on, the way we're bidding
You
it.
can't
that-
bid.
You can't go back to them and fine tune the bid, right? They get one shot and that's the number we have to consider.
Well, on a CSP,
No,
can you
we,
negotiate?
we can negotiate. We can negotiate, and like I said earlier, we do always look for ways to do things better, less expensive throughout the course of the project. And so when we find those ways, once we've contracted with somebody, then, we ask them for something that results in a credit, they'll give me a proposal on that, we approve it, that money goes back into the contingency we've got built in the project, and ultimately gets returned if it's not spent at the end of that project.
So I
But
saw,
Dr. Bitter, I guess I'm not trying to project what you're saying, but you can't go back to Pogue and say,
Yeah, you
you
can.
want to drop $1 million off of this so we can use you.
Not at this
value
point,
engineering.
no.
Or how about just understand why there's such a delta?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 500,000 for a roof, everybody else is at 100 or 200, what's the explanation? How can they be?
Like Pogue doesn't
Yeah.
want the job.
Or does Calvary want the job so bad that we're gonna pay, you know what I'm just.
How can you have a roof job, you got two people coming in at 100 to 200, and they come in at 500? What's the
Yeah,
explanation?
I don't have an explanation for that. I haven't talked
Well,
to
here's my
them
question.
about
Did
that.
Did the bond oversight committee, is there the one who scored this, or did?
No, they do not score these. That's the district
GC.
administrative team. So that's Dr. Wright, myself, Tommy, Liz.
so I did see
The
though,
architects did.
Well, they didn't score, but they are present and offer input.
so I did see though a note from Josh to the BOC asking for input. Now, did he have, or did anybody else have experience with Calvary? That I don't see a response.
No, there was a couple of comments that I had seen, but none of them was, about I've worked with them or I haven't worked with them. Who are they? Nothing along those
It
lines.
just seems like we need to make sure that the reputation that they show up on time,
Correct, and they have that, and based on
I mean, they've
Tommy
done
and our
work in the
discussions,
They
they,
did
they
the
are the right
repairs.
contractor for this
Small
project.
potatoes.
Well,
So
they
it's
did
almost
that
$10 million
massive
worth of
repair on
Right,
this
so can I
building.
can I ask you a
on-
question?
And on
Don't worry about
Hilltop.
When there are line items like this, right, alternate one, alternate two, all these things, right, and there's one that stands out, like Pogue's roof. Now, again, I'm not talking about school construction, but in other construction, you can go back and go, hey, tell me what's going on here, because you're way out of line.
or what are the other guys
Or
missing?
or maybe he's gonna point out that, hey, yeah, because you need this, this, and this, and no one else knows it or figured it out. And they could be saving us, you could come back in here with a $400,000 change order as a result. I'm not putting that on you, I'm just saying, when something's out of line that much,
There's information.
we
to be
can't go
gained.
back and say,
Yes.
hey, help me understand what's driving this number, because
Who's
you're
wrong? Somebody's
4
wrong.
times the amount of everybody else.
Yes, I can, but based on the other two prices that were not that far off, and this was an alternate, so normally I'm not, when I'm looking to award a contract, I'm not necessarily focused on alternates that much. The base bid is the main thing. So, in regards to, having two bids that were relatively close compared to Pogue's that was way high, that didn't really concern me at the time. So I'm asking to proceed so we get contracted with them.
So,
I mean, I'm also relying on the quality of our documents, which we have reviewed multiple times. I don't see any issues with the documents. I don't see anything that would cause there to be a gap. I'm not saying that somebody didn't make a mistake, but contractually, I believe everything is covered. And there are just times when you get contractors that view things differently, or maybe they weren't getting their prices until the last minute, and so they had to guess instead of getting prices. That happens sometimes, and so they don't want to, knowing that I may not award it on an alternate, it's easier to be high there than to throw money into the base bid, where if they're high, then they lose the job.
Is it fair to assume that Calvary is considerably smaller than Pogue.
Oh, absolutely. I believe they are smaller.
So Tommy,
So-
what has
Could
been
be
your
overhead.
experience with them? Or what type of jobs did they do? that
You need to
you're aware
come
of?
to the mic, because otherwise it's not picking you up on the recording.
So they are used to doing things fast. I don't know I don't remember the timeline, but they did have to present a timeline with Pogue. And do you remember if Pogue's was shorter or if Cavalry's were shorter?
Pogue had 17 less days.
17 less days, okay. So my experience with these guys,
Perfect. I mean, if they do a good
they
job,
have
great.
they've done a great job for us up to this point. They've done 2 projects for us. Both times they've done it fast, efficient, and have done a good job, and we've been happy with their work.
Which jobs did they do?
It's the restoration for
The water.
Snowmageddon,
Mhm.
when we had that. And then we had another incident at the high school early this year as well, so.
Yeah.
No, I'm all for the money side as long as
That was our
the
biggest.
product shows up.
Yeah.
For me, that was my biggest.
Because I mean, honestly, I mean, Pogue could be giving us a discount at, 5-1 because
Right.
they've done work with us, and they're like,
Cavalry is a smaller company, and
Yeah.
they can offer us a better price because of them being smaller, for sure.
Which is,
lower
let's take
overhead.
take that opportunity.
And that 17 days between Pogue and Calvary is probably the amount of manpower they're putting on it and paying for.
Probably.
I don't know.
Thanks, Tommy, appreciate it.
So the only thing I would suggest is just in general in the process, is we do have a bond oversight committee that's made up of people in the construction industry, architects, et cetera. And I think before and maybe you're already doing this, but before we bring any project out to bid, let's let them review the project to see, test the architect's work. Does this format or this make sense for the project? They can come at it with construction, architectural views, and then bring out that to bid, because that alone might save you $1 million off any project. Or I'm really thinking about our middle school projects and everything else, where if we can hone that in on our needs through a value engineering process driven by the construction guys and the architects on our advisory board, we might be able to save millions of dollars, in bid cost.
Well, the one thing that jumps out at me is timing. It seems like timing's killing us on our budget, and somehow, we just have a bond for $260 million to spend. I mean, we need to go. I mean, the longer we drag that out, the more we're gonna bust the budgets. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, remember, we've all
Like, I mean,
sold
if we
it.
need the
We've
elementary schools.
got to sell the bonds first. though.
Well, I know,
We have
I understand all that
capacity.
complications,
You have to
but-
have the.
And my
you
point is
have
we
to-
gotta save enough money too now.
You have to have the
versus-
capacity to sell them.
Yeah, the way you save the most money, it sounds like, is time.
Well,
In today's
absolutely,
environment- in
because
today's
of,
environment.
Even if you
because
got
of the
a-
escalating cost of construction,
But even if you
yes.
got a bid today for something you're gonna build 2 or 3 years from now,
Doesn't mean anything.
it doesn't
Oh,
mean
right.
anything.
You could have $10 million today, but that's certainly not the future value of
Right.
$10 million.
We're talking about $100 million middle school. I mean, you missed that by 25%.
You won't be able to build it for that today
You missed it by
already.
20, I mean, we missed this by 25%.
Hate to tell you that,
by
you-
25, that's a big deal.
Well, some
I'll
of this, do you
still
want to talk
challenge
about
that.
the electrical panel and that?
I would too, but
Based on the cost.
corridor?
Sure.
But
I mean,
got
that's a
4 districts
lot of
telling
the
me
It
money.
is.
to build the stuff
That's
they
a
committed to.
whole lot of what's
the
cost
costing
has
so
gone up.
much here.
So I don't have the 100% complete background here, but this includes replacement of the electrical system in the old admin hallway. So that's main switchboard, electrical panels, all the wire, all the devices. Because that's something that's been a problem and a safety concern for many years. But my understanding is this was not part of original scope that was ever considered when the budget was put together. The electrical, and I don't know the prices in the bid, but I know in our estimate that we had done was $1.9 million of the project in that estimate. His estimate was much higher than these bids. And that was, most of that would be money that was probably not anticipated when this was put together. And I don't know if that was not a safety concern in 2016, but it is today.
So sometimes when you're doing a remodel, it's
you can have surprises that maybe you
Absolutely.
don't quite have as much in a new build.
Correct. And
that may be what we're experiencing here is a
even
remodel
code
surprise.
is generating some of that because we are now required to put fire sprinklers in the hallway. That would not have been anticipated in 2016.
So is this original electrical that's in the building?
Yes, it is original.
And some of that is 1966.
It's been around
Federal
a while.
Pacific, I believe, which is not carry a UL listing.
I would think not. Wow.
So there are other factors, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Cohen pertaining to this action item?
Asked him enough.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 11G as presented.
So moved.
Dr. McDade, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dr. Bitter with the quiet second. Any further discussion?
Scared second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Last,
There we go.
not least, I'm bringing money
Final
back to you.
completion,
But it
final
has
action
fewer
item.
commas and fewer digits.
Fewer digits.
Yes, I
Much better. And some
apologize.
zeros in there. We like
I
that.
wish.
Yes.
So we've finally completed all of the work that we started back in the summer of '21 with some renovation work at Hilltop and what was high school then. Included doing the secure vestibules, and we added some kitchen equipment late, which is what kind of held this project open. But we're now ready to tell you it's complete, and we'd like to close it out. So we'd like approval of project acceptance, which would include a final change order that returns $37,055.65
So moved.
in unspent contingency funds.
I'll second.
Stop talking.
Listen, yeah, you're not. We're on board.
Boy, they get on to me and then they do it. Okay. I'll officially entertain a motion to approve action item 11H.
So
as
moved.
presented. Mr. Hawksworth, motion to
I was
approve.
also moved.
Mr. Deffenbaugh, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Time is 9:13 PM. We are adjourned.
Good.